Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to the full moon total lunar eclipse in Pisces. We are going to talk about this moon. I've got the chart ready with some talking points that we're going to go over, and I will pop it right up into the corner for you so you guys can see it as we talk about it. Um, Getting into this lunar eclipse, Mercury's in the conversation, Saturn's in the conversation because they're in the same room, right? When we talk about the different zodiac signs and things like that, even if they're far apart, like Saturn's at 29 degrees, it's not super close to the North Node or the moon in Pisces, but it's in the same room, right? Fresh, fresh into the same room. And Mercury is with the Sun and South Node in Virgo, right? They're in the same room. Talking about these energies, lunar eclipses, whenever we have lunar eclipses, total lunar eclipses like this, it's when the Sun and the Moon have the Earth in between them. And the Moon is blocked out by the Earth, but it's in this kind of sweet spot where the light from the Sun bending around the Earth hits the Moon. It gives it that pretty red glow. But it's where our feminine energy within the spirit doesn't like what it's feeling. And there is something in the way. There is an earthly matter in the way, whether that is a financial matter or a person, right? Relationship issue. It could even be like a location, right? You want to get out of where you are, and it's uncomfortable, and yet we haven't chosen with our yang, our masculine energy represented by the sun, we haven't chosen to remove it yet, right? We haven't chosen to remove it yet. So the sun shines light on this earthly matter in such a big way, and the feminine reflecting that red energy, it's root chakra energy, right? Which is the duality of fear and security, that duality of feeling unsettled or uncomfortable versus stable. And it's making it very known, right? The feminine energy within the self is making it very known. I don't like this. I don't like this at all, right? Something has to go, something has to give. And that's what eclipses tend to do. They tend to shine light on what absolutely needs to go. And depending on what house Virgo falls in for you, that's what's being removed. With Mercury in the room, it's a way of thinking about it. It is a way of trade, right? The trade off. Mercury rules over trade, merchants, things like that, and the mind. And so when we're talking about Mercury being in this room with the South Node and the Sun in Virgo, whatever house Virgo falls in for you, there is a different way of thinking, something that we're trading off that needs to be removed, right? For me personally, it's happening exact on my IC line in my midhaven. So for me, it's something within my inner child, right? It's something within my inner child that is being removed. Something in my midhaven, right? My career path, my reputation that is being highlighted and solidified within this energy. Where it falls for you is going to let you know the area of life in which this removal and this new highlight, this new order to things is taking place. Saturn, being in the same room as the North Node and the Moon, it's something within the emotional self, something within the intuitive self, right? Moon energy that is really solidifying and putting us in this aligned direction where we're listening to that feminine energy differently. And it's either going to make or break us, right? Saturn is make or break. It's a now or never kind of energy. With this moon being challenged by Pluto, Pluto is semi squaring the moon and sesquiquadrate on the sun from Aquarius. And it's transforming our vibration through discomfort. When Pluto is in challenge, the transformational energy is really unpleasant. It's really unpleasant. It doesn't feel good at all. In fact, it can feel brutal. And it has to do with our perspective, right? This as above and so below energy, as within and so without, right? What our energy or our vibration is within reflects into the outer experience. In addition to that challenge, it's in square to Lilith, who's retrograding in Libra. And it's where we've abandoned ourselves in relationship balance. Are you receiving the quality of energy that you're giving? Are you receiving the quality of energy that you are giving? The answer is likely no. It's likely no. And with that discomfort being highlighted with Pluto to Lilith, where we've abandoned ourselves, where we truly need to transform and rise in rebellion against the discomfort, it's aspecting in such a way that what needs to be removed, right, from the mind's way of thinking, from our way of choosing, right, the way we dictate our everyday life, our routine with Virgo energy. It feels like a major break, right? Like a breaking point, almost like a pressure cooker that is under so much pressure, it snaps, right? It feels like it snaps. With Venus being in Leo, right? Opposite sign of Pluto. Venus is also dealing with challenges. Venus is sesquiquadrate on Saturn and Neptune. And it's bringing up, you know, dynamics and energy that involves love and money and how we love and use money as a love language, when really Neptune and Saturn are accentuating the fact that it is just a form of control, right? Using money as a love language is a form of control. It's a diluted way of pushing authority over the reality. And I'll give you an example because we did a wheel spin last night at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. Leo's energy came up, and I ended up going on a huge rant of a tear, which after the fact, like whoever caught it. But after rewatching it back, sitting on it for a little bit, took a break, watched Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and then went back and started rewatching it a second time. I ended up taking it down because even though the message was accurate, the delivery of it, I could just feel the frustration on a spiritual level. And I feel like the message needs to be delivered in a more gentle way. But I will give you the perfect example of this energy. I had split from a best friend of mine. They've been my best friend for almost a decade. Were. And in hindsight, I see it very clear now. I know what she deals with in her personal life and what her mirrors look like. And she was always griping about how whenever her and her partner split, he would love bomb her, throw money at her. And after her and I split, because the energy was just so bad, spirit pulled me out. Like it was just so bad, so misaligned. She had betrayed a very spiritual facet of our relationship dynamic. And she ended up booking a reading, multiple readings at that, in my Etsy shop. Didn't message me on Etsy first or anything like that, just booked readings. And there was a time when ever her and I contacted each other, we knew we were in alignment. But that was the gift that she betrayed, right? It flipped into a fear state. And when I received it, the empath in me, right? The inner child empath in me really wanted to believe that maybe she was having a breakthrough. Maybe it was a sign for something good. But something didn't sit right. Something intuitively just, it didn't sit right. I didn't actually want to read her energy. It gave me this really horrible feeling. And so I had gone live and did an almost personal read, which just confirmed for me, because I'm my own best mirror, that it needed to end. It needed to get cut off. It needed to stop. And the reality was, you know, she was kind of forcing herself into my energy. Like, I'm throwing money at you. I'm throwing readings at you. You probably could use it, right? And we could all use money. Maybe she was thinking about equal energy exchange, right? But the reality was, the last thing that I said to her was, I'll reach out to you if I'm guided. I'll contact you and communicate with you if I'm guided. And so her booking a reading put me in a position where it's like, do I accept the money and be forced to read energy that I don't want to read, that I don't feel intuitively guided to at all? Or do I listen to my spirit? It doesn't feel good. Fuck the money. You know what I mean? And so I ended up refunding the service. I canceled the order and blocked her on my Etsy shop. Because I thought, how invasive. But she's doing the exact same thing that her partner would do, that she used to hate. And I had a conversation with her before the split, like, you're just like him. Like, the reason why he's in your mirror, like, you're just like him. And it rubbed her wrong. And yet, she's still doing exactly the same things that he's doing. And I said, no, like, this is not how it works. Money does not trump love in its truest form. The act was so selfish. And I realized that she wasn't listening to me at all. Not in the last days of our friendship, not in the whole year and a half leading up to it, where it really started to break down, not from the very beginning, from the day that I met her. She hasn't listened to a word I said because she's still in the same spot. She's still in the same energy, right? Dealing with the same mirrors, the same people. And it just confirmed for me that I want nothing to do with it. I don't want anything to do with it. This love and money challenge with Venus. Is the money worth the discomfort? Is the money worth being controlled in a delusional, right, Neptunian way? That I would give her authority, Saturn, over myself and my love of self and what I stand for. Like, my energy is not going to be bought. Like, don't get me wrong, money is great, makes the world move, like, It's required at this point in time to live. But is it worth my soul? Is it worth my connection to spirit being ignored? Was that door really worth reopening? No. No. The answer was a solid no. And so when you're dealing with your own Venusian energy, especially because it is in a semi-sextile to the sun, right, with South Node, that challenge is helping align you with what needs to be removed. If you don't like taking money and the cost is how you feel, if you don't like giving money and the cost is how you feel, that's what this Venus cycle, this Venus challenge with this eclipse is bringing up. I'm going to take that as a sign of good luck. I just I don't even know where it came from. I didn't even see any birds fly overhead. I just had a bird poop on me. Give me just a second, guys, so I can get rid of it. I don't know if you could see it on camera. But a dragonfly just landed on me. Talk about good luck, right? Thank you, Spirit, for the for the blessings, right? Divine confirmation. I feel like if we can redefine what love is, when we can set those boundaries that we will not be controlled by expectation. You know, Saturn can bring this idea of expectation, this idea of patriarchal kind of, I need to be, you know, the lead. I need to be the ruler of my world. I need to put on this put on this show of I have it all together. I'm following society's order, right? When it doesn't feel good. I'm doing what's expected of me. Being controlled by the system. This is where we break those chains, right? This is where we break those chains and we don't give in. This is where we rebel because the relationship is out of balance, right? The relationship is out of balance. I don't care if I ever speak to her again. I don't. I wish her well. I don't wish her any ill. I hope she heals. But I will never let money dictate anything. Period. This is the make or break, right? This full moon, I themed it, you don't own me. When teacher abandons student. And I named all of the moon events for the rest of the year in advance, and it just ended up being so fitting, right? Spirit guides me to these themes. And ended up being so fitting because that's exactly what that was. That's exactly what that was. And I tried, right? That bullshit word, try. You either do or you don't. I tried to help her, to teach her what I've come to know and understand for almost a decade. And I've completely detached from and, quote unquote, abandoned the student because the student didn't want to learn. If the student wants to learn, they hear the wisdom and they apply it. It might take them a couple tries to get it, but they apply it. My son's a great example. you know, I've been teaching him and working with him for the last few years, and things are starting to click for him. Things are starting to make sense. He's starting to make changes. He's starting to understand, and he's improving, right? Overall, he's improving. The more that he learns and the more wisdom he applies, the better off he is. So when you're looking at this energy and where it falls into your chart, especially if Venus is in one of your money houses, right? Like the second house or the eighth house, this is a big deal about how you look at money, how you give money as a language, and what you deem reasonable or rightful to inherit in response. If it's dealing with your relationship houses, if it's the first house, seventh house, it's talking about what it is within yourself that needs to be loved or transformed from your outer experience, in partnership and relationship with other people, regardless of what kind of relationship that is, whether it's romantic or platonic or familial or business, right? If you're dealing with it like fourth house, 10th house, then it's all about the home, it's about the job, it's about family versus, the reputation that you put out into the world. The image, right? The image and how it needs to be adjusted. What do you love about it? And what do you not love about it? How does it make you feel to be inside that energy? And what needs to give, right? This is the relationship that Venus and Pluto are having to this lunar eclipse, this full moon. Jupiter in Cancer is positively aspecting on this node, this nodal cycle, this eclipse, right, with the sun and moon. Jupiter being sextile to the sun and trine to the moon with these nodes, it's really talking about nurturance in a big way. What is worth it to nurture? What is keeping you out of balance? Whatever house that Jupiter rules for you, that is where you have to nurture. That's where your nurturance needs to go right now. It's where it needs to be considered the most. The moon is ruled naturally by Cancer. And so with Jupiter there in aspect, the wisdom that Jupiter brings, the foresight that Jupiter brings, where we know something either is or isn't going to work out, needs to be acknowledged and honored, right? The wisdom needs to be applied, it needs to be nurtured, and it needs to be honored in a very higher self kind of way. It is challenging Libra, Mars and Libra, where our relationships that we desire, our relationships that we take the lead in, need to find a more mutual, equal resonation, where some relationships need to be cut off, right? Mars severs. It cuts away. It goes to war. And with the imbalance, right, the challenge there, it's like, how can you create harmony in your relationships by cutting off what needs to be cut off, including old ways of nurturance of the self and other people? How do you take the lead on your, how do you let your divine feminine energy take the lead? Where you can surrender the mind and what it thinks it needs to do to maintain balance when it's creating a disruptive energy, right? Where it's distorting and disrupting your inner peace. The Jupiter, Libra, Mars challenge, right? Jupiter and Cancer, Libra, Mars challenge is asking you to cut away that which does not nurture, to cut away that which does not love. And when I say love, I mean spiritual love, truth, honesty, transparency, compassion for the self, mercy for the self. What relationships would have you sacrifice self-compassion? What relationships demand so much of you that you can't show yourself some mercy, that you can't receive it from them, right? Mercy. My relationship with that old mirror, right? That friend only cared about themselves. only cared about themselves. It's become blatantly obvious, even looking back in hindsight, of like different memories that I've had with them. And they might not realize or understand how I can make that connection, but it's true. They weren't in the relationship with me because loving me felt beautiful. There was a self driven motive behind all of it. This need to feel important that mirrors in her external reality, where I felt the need to be important in the mirror of it all. And I can give that to myself, right? That is the inner child facet that's being removed, that need to be important, to feel important. I can just give that to myself. I'm important. I honor me, right? I feel like nurturing the self and how we do things differently is probably one of the biggest facets of this eclipse. With Uranus retrograding now, it started retrograding yesterday. It really is honing in on that reflective energy of the mirror, having revelation, having epiphany about old mirrors and what we needed to see, whether they were mirrors that were healthy for us that we were not healthy for at the time, or mirrors that were not healthy for us and we're only realizing it now, right? We're only realizing it now. These transits are helping us see and understand our relationship with our outer experience differently, how we really can and should remove all of the labels. Like, this is not so and so person with such and such name, and this is not their role in my life as partner, mother, father, brother, friend, right? When we take the labels off and realize that everybody truly is just a facet of our inner self reflecting in the outer. If you have a liar in your outer experience, how are you lying to yourself in regards to this person? If someone is trying to control you and use things against you, how are you trying to use yourself and use spirit, right, in a way that is against the self? If you have people in your reality that are using you and abusing you, how are you using and abusing your spiritual energy, right? If you have people in your life that say one thing and do another, how are you saying one thing in terms of spirit, in relation to spirit, and yet doing another? Looking at the mirrors and reflection with this Uranus cycle is a big deal. It's a big deal. A lot of things with this moon. I mean, given the lunar eclipse in and of itself is just a big deal on the whole. But with Uranus going retrograde yesterday, this lunar eclipse is really setting off the domino effect of revelation, and how our outer experience needs to pull us back in a sense, to reevaluate everything, right? Because when Uranus goes back into Taurus, it's shaking up the reality. So all of this different reflection now going on in the mind about the reality is going to change everything on a 3D level before it finally takes back off into Gemini for its next, full transitory cycle through Gemini. What needs to be removed? What needs to be removed? What perspective needs to shift? It is not okay to be bought if what you're buying truly is suffering. If what you're buying is a toxic mirror that doesn't feel good. Tuning into our emotions is going to be so important. It's going to be imperative. It's going to be imperative. We have Chiron in opposition to Lilith, who is square Pluto. But Chiron is getting really close to that square with Pluto energy. It takes a long time. They both move pretty slow. They're both retrograde right now. But at some point, Chiron is going to square Pluto from Aries and continue as it moves into Taurus. How we sacrifice ourselves, how we sacrifice our stability, our sense of inner security, spiritual security, how we sacrifice what is ours, truly, what is ours, that spirit divines for us and our highest good. How we sacrifice that for lower vibrations of energy that need to be transformed. It's going to be a big topic as time continues over the next couple years. And I don't think people quite grasp the theme that Spirit's been bringing up for weeks and months now, especially if you're on my channel and getting my messages, right? Even watching, Alan Ellenboss, who did a big thing on this moon, he was talking about karma and how he couldn't wrap his brain around some karma. Like how could things like shootings happen, like school shootings, and have it be just, right? How is that karma? It doesn't make sense. And I commented on the video, and I was just like, I think the biggest facet that you missed was the divine feminine role in karma, right? Our divine feminine yin energy. Karma isn't because we do right or wrong. You did a good deed, so good things happen. You did a bad thing, so bad things happen. It has to do with masculine and feminine energy and resonance. Did you listen to your intuition? Like, did the school board pay attention, right? The school administration, did they pay attention to this troubled student? Were they afraid, right? Using fear, were they afraid not to listen to their intuition because of the ramifications it could have on an administrative level? Did a parent, right, that their kids say, I don't want to go to school today, right? I really don't want to go to school today. And they didn't have any other reason, that there was just some sense of dread. They didn't want to go. And the parent was afraid of having to tell their boss, like, I can't come into work today because my child was afraid to go to school. Like, it doesn't make sense. And so people ignore, right, the intuition because they're just doing what they think they're supposed to be doing, or they're dismissive. So karma happens because people ignore that intuitive part of the self. And in that case that he was talking about, it's because a lot of people ignored their intuition for very mundane reasons, right? Very fear-based reasons, using fear as a means to choose from, right? As the vibration to choose from. Well, when you choose from a fear state, karma has a way of showing you why you should have listened to your intuition, right? Karma has a way of teaching you should have listened to your intuition. And it's because the masculine and feminine facets in our world are so unbalanced, right? They're so unbalanced. It's so toxic when the feminine is controlling things with the masculine in harmony, where the feminine is being honored, right? And the masculine is choosing in alignment with the feminine. We really are able to create harmony. When the masculine is choosing things and it's not considering or honoring the feminine energy, shit hits the fan. Shit hits the fan, whether it hits the fan right away or it hits the fan down the road, depending on how big the intuitive denial is. We really need to face the reality. We can't choose without our intuition being a part of it. Yin and yang go hand in hand. They're one, right? When we talk about universal laws, there is a law of oneness and there is a law of gender. And the gender is masculine and feminine, right? So masculine and feminine, if all 12 universal laws coexist simultaneously in harmony, then masculine and feminine are one, are one. When we are not honoring our intuition, when we are not honoring the feminine, when we are not honoring the red flags that we're getting, when we're not being honest with ourselves that something is not working out, it tends to reveal itself in a very powerful and painful way. Like, we all know politics is garbage, but we all keep doing it. We all keep voting in these fucking people, right? That charge us for fucking water and charge us for electricity and keep us separate, go to war with each other, make us kill each other. It's awful because the mind is in control. It wants power. It's toxic energy. When you have masculine and feminine energy that are not honoring each other, that's ego. That's what ego is. It's choices being made from ego because the masculine's not considering the feminine. It's not in harmony, it's ego. It's ego. And I think it's a really big thing to consider with this moon. So I hope this helps, right? I have faith that those of you who want to heal and are invested in your healing and applying wisdom will take this. You'll look at your birth chart, you'll see where it's at, you'll start to analyze it in a very real way and let your chart speak to you, right? Let your chart speak to you. Like, this is what needs to be adjusted when you tune in to your better energy and your higher knowing. This is what needs to shift and change in order for you to be at peace with yourself and your reality, so that you're not feeling stressed, so that you're not feeling unstable, so that you're not feeling like everything is crashing and burning and we have these cycles of crash and burn all the time. We got to figure out what's interrupting the flow. We got to figure out what is interrupting the flow. You know, when we look into our charts and let it speak to us and we figure out what is interrupting the flow, that's when we get back into the flow. Acceptance and realization is the first step. Applying the wisdom and taking the actions in accordance with what feels right. What feels right is the second. Acknowledgement, acceptance, action. And then everything starts to unfold. Everything starts to heal. It takes time for the outer to catch up to the inner state, but it doesn't always take that long. It doesn't always take that long. The universe opens doors where you thought there were none. The universe opens doors where you thought there were none, sometimes within 24 hours, like my own life and experience is testament to that. When you definitively decide that this is done, this mirror has to go, this mirror has to go, I understand the toxic shadow connection, why I have this person in my reality, why I have that person in my reality, and start to make the cuts, the necessary cuts. Everything starts to shift, and the people that you need to align with will align with you. My mirror is so beautiful. It's just me and my son. And for him, it's the same. And it's a beautiful mirror. I get to connect with the beautiful facets of everybody here that wants to heal, that wants to apply that wisdom, that wants to change their life in profound and beautiful ways, to experience more than this. There's more to life than this. There's more to life than suffering. There's more to life than obligation. There's more to life than being controlled. There's more to life than disharmony. There's beauty. There's gratitude. There's peace. There's joy. There's transformation. There's abundance. Be rich in spirit. Claim the victory for yourself, the blessings. Be inside the divine's favor because you favor your divinity, your balance of masculine and feminine, that you choose it for yourself. That's what this cycle's all about. I love you guys. And I'll see you for the secret code name readings. Here on the YT channel, right? I love you and I'll see you later. Bye.